Okay, this is a review of Star Trek Prodigy Episode 18, Mindwalk. This bizarre episode. The Trek Yards actually made a few predictions here that actually kind of happened. Also mine too. So there you go. I did not have anything to do with writing the story. It's just that the clues in the story are kind of, obvious. It's a kid show. Anyway, so we have they're trying to contact the ship. The Dauntless is chasing the Protostar. They're firing on them in at that point on the Protostar. Zero and Dal use a mind link, which somehow transfers the energy of their consciousness like a Katra over to the other ship, switching bodies between Dal and Janeway, but not in the weird Wonder Woman 1984 way, but more like a Freaky Friday way. So it's a Freaky Friday episode. So we have, which has been remade several times, and so they're switched, and they're basically able to communicate that way. The Trek Yards guys, or actually, well, why can't they use Morse code and stuff like that? They tried that too. But the idea of them swapping minds was one of the sillier ideas that Cockings and Foley were thinking. Wouldn't it be silly if they switched the holographic minds together and went back and that's what they did. Okay. But yes, also the weapon, the Janeway in Dal's body gets to tell the hologram Janeway about the weapon, and the hologram Janeway isn't evil. She is. Her program was corrupted, so Janeway resets it as Dal. And then we have, the sneaky ensign lady is apparently trying to follow the captain around the ship. The captain, the admiral, who is Janeway, who is acting really weird because she's Dal. And he wants to do it. And so we have it's all over the place. We have the diviner guy, because he got blasted, acting less evil, also a Trek Yards thing. But he still needs to carry out his evil mission, even though he's evil. Well, and the ensign lady and all that, and destroy the Federation and whatever. But he traps her, but then he lets her go. Also, the Trek Yards guy. Also, the ship, she's on the ship. She figures out a way. The diviner lets her escape, and she goes to the observation area somewhere on the ship and is able to communicate through hand signals to their ship, Morse code or something like that. And then they play charades in the ship, and then somehow the idea that they're going to touch in spacesuits out in space. They're going to go out in space. They get but they hook a tractor beam on Janeway, and while they're trying to touch, he uses a phaser to somehow use the phaser as an impeller instead of a repulsor beam. I don't know how that would work, but not to destroy something, but rather to heat it up, I guess. That somehow works. That doesn't make sense in Star Trek, but then again, phasers kind of don't make sense either. So, okay, fine. Energy beam connects the... Sure. Quantum, maybe, or something. Phaser beam doesn't hurt them, it just, covers them in energy somehow. I've never seen them do that on Star Trek. That is different. I don't think that would work. Just because you're putting energy out, you're not taking it in. It would defy physics. But yeah, their consciousnesses are switched back. The tractor beam pulls the Janeway back, but they throw her to the brig, and the Starfleet arrives, including there's several ships in the fleet. There's what appears to be a Sovereign class, a classic Trek, Next Generation ship, and a California class ship. Some other ones out there. So that scene there with the fleet. Look for the episode 19, Cal Cat's cameo, where he's one of the commanders. Shit. Anyway, so but yes, no, but he's gonna look like me. But yeah, they could still do the bad guy. Ensign lady could still activate the weapon and fry the fleet that's in front of them, but it wouldn't fry all of Starfleet. Yeah, they could still do that, and they could still activate the synth thing, so that could still happen, because that's the time period for that to happen. But it does create a paradox, because the whole planet was a paradox. The whole Solon and Attercal planet, Cal again? Okay, Calicat. The real name's Sam Brown, but Calicat is the stage name, so that's all they know. So the Frontical aliens, the Cillians, basically. The Solians, Cillians, they're Cillians. There are many Cillian races in the galaxy. They're like augments, but they have Q powers. Although Dal might not be able to be in Starfleet because he's an augment, they might make an exception. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, it wasn't his fault, he was an augment. Born that way. He was born this way. Yeah, so not a it was an exciting episode, clearly part of something. It was far better than the weird holodeck one last week, in which they were just, okay, we're gonna show you stuff that boomers and then millennials and boomers and then X-Gen and millennials would remember, but no one else would. Like, there's a kid's show for post-millennials. They're not going to get any of that stuff. Casablanca especially. Why did they go there? That didn't make any sense on Deep Space Nine when they did stuff like that. They'd be all like, we're going to do the lounge. Yeah, it's like, even then, at the time, in the 90s, when Deep Space Nine would do stuff like that, with that Vic Fontaine thing, like, who's watching? Who in our generation is going to be thinking that's cool? Nobody. If we're like 20-something in 1990, yeah, we're not going to think it's cool to go to a lounge and hang out with a bunch of old dudes smoking and stuff or whatever, and a lounge singer. That's not cool. That's people watching it. Oh well. Anyway, so they weren't smoking, but they would be like that back in the day. But so this one, they have communicated their intent, but they've thrown the Admiral in the brick, so, but they've communicated their intent, so they know what's going on. They can't assume everybody's, bad guy, and they're gonna, it's still, a lot of it doesn't make sense because they made it look like the crew was only a dozen people, like typical of a Star Trek episode. We're going to beam down to the planet and affect its entire culture from one beam down. Or we're going to go onto a ship and invade it with one or two guys. It's just, so that part of Star Trek doesn't make any sense. I understand that it can't be doomed. They can't say, okay, we're going to make it like an epic or all in one encompassing. A bunch of people show up in the thing. And we fight them. They had the same problem with the Kenobi movie and the Kenobi miniseries on Marvel, and same problem with the Boba Fett one. It was even worse. The same idea. It's like, I am now Boba Fett, but I'm now good or something, like semi-good, and I'm going to take over this one part of town. It's going to affect all of the planet. But it doesn't. It's just you in one town. The same principle of averages as a solar weapon or a planet-destroying weapon. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and more ridiculous. A galaxy-destroying weapon, why not? Some aspects of science fantasy are just like, no, you can't really do that. So likely the last two episodes will be something along the lines of stop the evil activation code thing before it blows up the Federation. It's likely the last two episodes. So. Which would again be them looking for a secret glowy red thing that's going to blow up everything, because J.J. Abrams and Mystery Box and but here done better than normally would have been.